Hi, this is Eric Leuschner from Real Property Management in Blacksburg, Virginia, where you can own the home and not the hassle. This is the next video in our series on landlord investor education. I hope you enjoy this as much as you have enjoyed the other videos. A couple of caveats to begin with. I'm not an attorney, so nothing I say should be construed as legal advice. I am not a financial advisor. Nothing I say should be construed as financial advice either. I am a licensed real estate agent in the Commonwealth of Virginia and a realtor. We're continuing our series on landlord education. We're talking about screening tenants. Why does it matter? Uh, you will solve 99% of all problems before they occur by putting the right tenant in your property. And it's well worth the effort having to do an eviction because you placed the wrong tenant, whether you're evicting them for non-payment of rent or non-compliance with the lease, is a very time consuming and expensive process. In the state of Virginia, it will take about 90 days to actually have somebody removed from the property. And that's if you do everything correct and hit all the gates. And we have a video on the eviction process. Uh, if you'd like to watch that and kind of get an idea of what you might be setting yourself up for. So well worth your time and effort and expense to screen the tenants. So there's four steps we're going to talk about in screening the tenant. The first is the application process. You want to make sure that you collect all their personal information, particularly their social security number and their driver's license number, and you want to have a photocopy of their driver's license or some other type of government ID. If you look at the IRS I-9 form, they describe what are considered acceptable forms of ID in terms of tax collection. So that's a good place to start. You need that so that if you do have to go through the eviction process and or the collections process, you have that information. If you don't have a social security number and date of birth, most collection agencies aren't going to want to work with you. You also want to ask for rental history and references. This is getting to be a little bit trickier. A lot of property management companies and even some private landlords will not respond to these requests. They're concerned about saying something negative and being sued by the previous tenant. Right or wrong, that's just the way it is. So if you do ask for a reference from a previous landlord, keep in mind you may or may not get a response. You want to make sure that you do credit and background checks. This is where using a professional property management company can be of a lot of benefit to you. Professional management companies have access to the credit unions and the credit reporting data, and you may or may not be able to get access to that as an individual. So if you're considering managing the property yourself, you may want to check around for a management company that will do a lease only process where the management company will find the tenant for you and then turn everything over to you for management. That way, you're getting the benefit of their experience in processing an application as well as access to the professional systems that they have. So you're looking at a credit report, payment history. You're going to do a criminal background check. You're checking. Have to be careful with this. We're going to hit some of the fair housing things here in a minute, and we'll also have a whole nother video just on fair housing that you may want to check out. So you can look for some criminal convictions. You can't look for everything. And of course, you want to check and see if that person has had a history of evictions. And again, you may or may not find that in the court records. It just depends on the court and whether they took the time to update their systems. So the third step is verifying employment income. You want to make sure that you have at least 3 months of employment history. So it's not, some people will say 3 pay stubs. If they're getting paid every week or every 2 weeks, that could be only 3 or 6 weeks of employment. You want to make sure you've got at least 3 months of employment, or there may be an explanation. Perhaps they just moved into town to take a job at a large corporation, and they don't have 3 months of credit, or correction, 3 months of pay stubs with that company, but they probably have an offer letter, or you can contact the HR department and verify their employment. You want, as a rule of thumb, you're looking for the gross monthly income to be 3 times the rent. The gross monthly income is their income before all the deductions are taken out, the taxes, the FICA, the Social Security number, 401k contributions, anything else they may have coming out of their base pay. That is would give you their net income. So you want to look at their gross income and see that it's 3 times the monthly rent. Uh, Something you can look for if somebody has had 4 or 5 jobs in the past 6 or 8 months. That's an indication that they may not be really stable with their employment, which could lead to an issue if they quit their job. Rental history, if you are able to get somebody to respond to you, uh, a few key things to ask. Did they pay on time? Did they give proper notice before they left the property? What was the condition of the property at move out? And probably the most important and simplest question you can ask is, would you rent to this tenant again? And if you don't ask anything else, ask that question. That's a yes or no question. And if that person says no, then you may want to consider very strongly whether you want to enter into a relationship with this potential tenant. Um, a couple of red flags to look out for: incomplete applications. Sometimes people just miss something or forget to put something down. So just that in itself is not a big problem. You just say, hey, you forgot to put this, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, here's the information. That's not a huge red flag. What you want to look for is when they start hemming and hawing and saying why they can't provide that. Um, that's an indication that there's something there they don't want to disclose. Same with um, asking for documents. That might be pay stubs or some other document that you need to talk about so that you can make a determination whether you're going to rent this house to them or not. Okay, so this is where it's very easy to get yourself into a lot of trouble. The fair housing, the state and federal fair housing people are merciless, and they enforce the fair housing laws very strictly, and it's very easy to make an innocent mistake, and just because you're ignorant of the law is not going to be a defense. And when they come after you, even on a first offense, they're coming after you for tens of thousands of dollars. And they, again, no mercy. They will just prosecute you as hard as they can. So be very, very careful with this. The best thing to do is write down on a piece of paper your criteria for selecting a tenant. So you may say they have to have 3 times the monthly rent in gross income. They need to have a 600 credit score or higher. They need to have no evictions in the past 7 years. They need to have no violent felony convictions, period. They need to have no uh, drug related distribution charges in a whatever time frame. You have to be careful. This is one where it's easy. If somebody has conviction for recreational use of marijuana, you can run afoul of fair housing by denying the application on that ground. The other thing to do, and again, this is a best practice, you have those criteria. The first person that meets that criteria, you offer them the lease. Where you can really get into trouble is if you say, I'm going to make a decision on the lease on a certain date, and I'm going to take all the applications that I have at that time, and I'm going to pick the best one. Uh, why is that the best one? If you can't explain why that's the best one versus one that came in before that, again, very easy to run afoul of fair housing. So watch our video on fair housing compliance. It's extremely important. This is another great reason to use a management company, even if all they're doing is doing the leasing process for you. So again, 99% of those problems are solved before they even happen by putting the right tenant in the house. So hopefully you've enjoyed this and gotten some good information from it. Please click like and subscribe. You can see all our other videos in our library on YouTube.